Check 1 2, check 1 2. Greetings, everybody. It is a great pleasure to be seeing you all. My name is Dustin Cormier, and this is How to Rock Astrology. I'm just noticing there's some funky new things I can do. I can do questions and polls and stuff. That's kind of neat. It's been a little hot minute, and it's nice to be here to discuss our topic of discussion of the day, which is, of course, we will be discussing the one and only Sravana Nakshatra. It'll only take me 1,000 years to get it up. This is our discussion on Sravana Nakshatra today, whose deity is the one and only Vishnu. This is the one deity that phrase actually means something for. The one and only being, Vishnu. Now, of course, as I've been saying a little bit in my description on this YouTube video, this is a nakshatra. And so everybody who is of this nakshatra is not necessarily going to be of the caliber of Vishnu. All the nakshatras are equally capable cards in the deck. It's like a Pokemon card game, you know. There's no Charizard, you know, just because somebody has like Jesta Nakshatra, they can't say, oh, I've got the Charizard card. You'd play a Charizard, and everyone's like, oh, now I'm going to lose no matter what. There's no better nakshatras, you know. That being said, Vishnu is a very important spiritual archetype, and we are going to learn that the nakshatra of Sravana does cater to the theme of self-realization and self-cognition through the ancient paths of self-awareness and yoga. Paths in particular, hearing a path being a key element of this nakshatra. We're going to talk about it all today, and as usual, we're going to be borrowing from some very important texts, one of them being Nakshatra, the Authentic Heart of Vedic Astrology by Vic Dicara, as well as The Divine Forces of the Lunar Nakshatras, as portrayed in the Vedas by an author named Radhe. And we are also going to hear from Ernst Wilhelm in his little book, which I've lost the front page of, made my own little copy of. It's his free PDF discussing the Nakshatra Sutras of the Taittiriya Brahmana. So let's start to move forward here, everybody. And if you're enjoying this work, feel free to join my subscription at dustincormier.com/subscribe. You can join my email list. You can become aware of what is hot in my universe and what's coming up in my world of creative artistry. I'm writing some books. I'll be doing a tropical Vedic astrology book soon as well. So keep your eyes peeled. Now, as usual when I do these videos, when we begin with our intro. My little UFOs. And we are going to begin by discussing the themes of how we do these videos, this particular video series where we discuss the Nakshatra Sutra for each nakshatra that we do as it is presented in the Taittiriya Brahmana. So let's start unpacking our video today. Now, for everybody who's watching, keep in mind that I use tropical rashis. I'm a tropical Vedic astrologer, and these tropical signs of the Zodiac are overlaid on the 27 sidereal nakshatras. So tropical is a spinning dial that turns every 24,000 years, and so all the points of the Zodiac are revolving technically backwards against the sidereal star-based nakshatras. To give that short thrift here, what this means is that the actual zodiac is created by the Earth and the Sun's relationship to each other, according to tropical astrology theory. Tropos means the turning of the sun. So when the sun begins moving southward from the summer solstice, that is the beginning of Cancer, the summer solstice. And that is what defines where the zodiac is. It's not a star. Now that point is revolving in a course of 24,000 years because of the turning of the Earth's tilted axis. We call it the precession of the equinoxes. And that's why for us tropical astrologers, there's the signs, which are based on tropical astronomy, and there's the stars, which is a fixed position in the sky. You can hear more about that by reviewing a video that I have on the subject. It's my sidereal tropical video. In particular, I have one called The Age of Aquarius Debunked. I have another one called The Sidereal Tropical Debate. It's a half an hour long. I highly recommend it. Now, this is a figure that I often give. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but essentially, there's an old psychedelic story where Vishnu is called upon because this giant demon ego is beginning to take over space. The demon ego grows so vast that no one in the cosmos can do their work. So who do they call? They call Vishnu, who is the king of all consciousness and beingness in all parts of all existence. And they say to Vishnu, this guy's causing us trouble. So Vishnu knew that this ego could be tricked. So Vishnu appears in the form of a dwarf, an atom, the smallest thing possible. Because that's the small and the large are all one, as above, so below. So Vishnu appears to this big demon as this tiny little atom and says, hey there, I'm looking for a boon. And the demon says, what do you want from me? And Vishnu says, I'm looking for 3 foot paces, please. I want to put 3 steps. The demon says, oh, well, this is silly. You can ask me for anything. You're so small. Your steps will be so small. It'll be nothing. And then Vishnu says, it's okay. Trust me. That's all I need. And he grants him 3 steps of land. That's what I meant to say. 3 steps, 3 paces of land. And with his first step, there's many ways to convey this. Technically, the real way to tell this story is that Vishnu first steps. Hi, Sasha. Hello, my dear. It's nice to see you. With also, hello, Hamster Heaven, if you're here hanging out with us as well. So with Vishnu's 3 steps, the first one he took was Svaloka, the Devas. The second step was the atmosphere, Bhur. That'd be Bhuva, Bhuvaloka. That would be the atmosphere of the Rudras. And then the third step is Bhur, which is earth, Bhumi. Different languages say in different ways. So it's Devas, energy, physical reality. So everything. And Vishnu, encompasses all of these things. So that's how this demon was defeated. In this little metaphor, we could also see it as being conveyed this way, is with Vishnu's first step, he took the stars, the sidereal zodiac. Then he took the local space, which is the tropical zodiac, the signs, which is a second space. And then there's the geomantic space of the houses. It's the earth spinning on its own axis. So you have nakshatras, you have the zodiac signs, and you have the houses, right? So this series, my intention is to convey the pure essence or nature of the nakshatras without the Rashi associations. This is the big thing happening in the tropical Vedic astrology movement. The idea here is how do we get at the essence of these nakshatras without getting too entangled in the tradition which has had the idea that the nakshatras are married to the signs. The easiest example I could probably give you, we could say my nakshatra is Jyesta, Indra. And traditionally, back 2,000 years ago, when these nakshatra aphorisms were really being sort of canned and conveyed, really it was longer than that, actually. But it's 2,000 years ago that the Zodiac came about. The nakshatras are actually much older, as we're about to learn. The nakshatras are about 4,000 or more years old. They started to get a handle on the nakshatras around 2000 BC. But the zodiac in horoscope astrology was something around Jesus' time, around 0 AD, 2,000 years later. And the nakshatras' time, they were using it for divination. If the new moon happened in the sign of Sravana, it would mean that this is a good time for blank. It would be a good time for, let's see, I wish I could think of that. I intended in this video series to discuss more of the natal horoscope stuff. But there are classical associations of something like Sravana, for example, with perhaps being a good time to plant. Shravana's case would probably be a better time for uprooting, for traveling, for digesting paths, and for eventually seeking the path that you want to seek. That's a sort of Shravana thing that would happen if, for example, the new moon or the full moon was in Shravana. That's the kind of thing they would have done and figured out and used the nakshatras for around 2000 BC. It's a divination. But there was no zodiac signs. There was no, there was nothing like that at that time. So if the new moon happened in Jesus' time around 0 AD, this is when the zodiac came to be. This is when the Greeks and the Indians and the Arabic and Egyptian people all kind of came together just after the fall of Alexander the Great. They all meshed together and started creating what we now know as the 12-sign rashis, the 12-sign zodiac. It's at this time that we started to see the wheel, we started to see ascendants, we started to see the 12 signs and the 12 houses associated with them. They were even coming together before this, but it's around Jesus' time that Ptolemy marked them in the sky, and they became a well-regarded thing in all cultures. But 2,000 years ago, the stars were back far away. So, for example, in the sign of Jyesta, the traditional placement of the sign of Jyesta is in the sign of Scorpio. Nowadays, it falls into Sagittarius. So this is this discrepancy, this is this distortion that we're talking about. Now, Shravana, for example, falls into tropical Aquarius. It's kind of on the tail end of Capricorn. Whereas, I think, if I'm not mistaken, let me check this just to be sure. Shravana, yeah, so Shravana would have fallen in the old days into the sidereal sign of Capricorn. Now Shravana falls into Aquarius. So this is our idea here, is that these nakshatras change tropical signs, and the traditional way of conveying them assumed that, for example, Shravana had the essence of Capricorn in it, but we now know that Shravana now falls in tropical Aquarius. So since these changes happen, we want to find out how to understand the essence of the nakshatra without these Rashi associations. A Rashi is just the signs, the 12 signs of the zodiac. So how do we know about the nature of Shravana, for example, without blending it onto the distortion of the Capricorn sign? Well, or even Aquarius. We want to take it from what it is, because in 6,000 years from now, Shravana is going to probably fall into Pisces or Aries. Yeah, that would be how it goes. So, now hopefully I got to check to see how my face looks on here. I'm going to have to put this under here. Good. Now, the most authentic and undistorted literature we have available on the nakshatras comes from the Taittiriya Brahmana. It's a commentary on the Krishna Yajurveda. It's considered to be a continuation of it. And this is a text that was written long before the horoscope was invented, long before the signs were invented. This in that 2000 BC period, or probably a little bit after. So now this means that the distortion which we're dodging here is really twofold. A is the incorrect zodiac associations. That's what we just explained. But B is also this Vimshotari Lord. The idea that a planet ruling the first dasha period, when the moon falls in that nakshatra, is going to say something intrinsic about that nakshatra. This is a debated thing. Vic Dicara kind of points us away from this association. So just for quick reference, what we mean by this is, if you're born with the moon in Sravana, which is probably why you're watching this video, the first Mahadasha that you experienced would have been the moon Mahadasha. This would mean that that Sravana has something to do with the moon. It has something to do with the character of the moon. It's interesting to think about. Every time I hear these associations, it's interesting to think about, because Vishnu would relate with Krishna and would relate with the moon. Krishna is more of a moon thing. Vishnu is more of an everything thing. So it's interesting to think about, but this is the point, though, is that we are looking to peer into the nature of the nakshatra outside of its planetary Vimshotari Dasha association. The nakshatra lord, as some people call it. It's interesting to convey it here. This is what I like to do in my videos. I like to say, this is what this tradition calls this, but we're trying to look beyond that. Right? That's what we're kind of trying to do here. It's a funny dance of history that we're playing in these videos. So, in the present day, here we have Vic Dicara's Ayanamsha, which is pretty much tropical astrology placed on the Lahiri Ayanamsha. And you'll notice that it's all of the nakshatras are in a uniform measurement. They're all basically 13 degrees and 20 minutes of arc. Basically 4 Navamsha portions long. But they start on these certain places. In this case, Sravana begins at about 4 degrees Aquarius and ends at 17.5 degrees Aquarius in Vic's system. In Ernst Wilhelm's system, it's a little bit different. Sravana in Ernst Wilhelm's system begins at about 27.25 degrees of Sravana, and then it ends at about 9.75 degrees of, Sravana, the nakshatra Sravana, begins at 27.25 degrees of Capricorn, and it ends at 9.75 degrees of Dhanishta, of Aquarius. Excuse me, gotta get my mouth together here today. So the end of Capricorn, the beginning of Aquarius. 27 degrees Capricorn to 9.75 degrees of Aquarius is what we would call Sravana. So if your moon falls into these places, especially after 4 degrees and before 9 degrees, then you are definitely a Sravana. Now, if it falls at, say, 1 degree of Aquarius, like my Saturn does, for example, I go with Ernst Wilhelm. But we would call that a cusp. My Saturn falls at 1 degree of Aquarius. So Vic would say that my Saturn falls in Uttarashada, and Ernst would say that my Saturn falls in Shravana. I feel more connected to Ernst Wilhelm, but in this day and age, you've got to feel out your guru and figure out which one feels the most relevant to you. I'm going to do some work with these two fellas at some point and get to the bottom of why those two are so different. Now, let's delve a little bit into what we call these so-called, I'm just getting my comments together here, these 4 classical nakshatra characteristics. Now, these qualities are not necessarily given directly in the Taittiriya Brahmana Sutras that we're using as our main study. These may have been called by cultural intuitions and commentaries based on these 2 distortion points we've already mentioned, the Vimshotari Lord and the Zodiac associations. My phone's making noise. So, let's go into it. I like to describe these characteristics because it gives us a little hint at what the tradition has described in relation to this nakshatra. But again, we have to think critically and chew on these with discernment. This is like eating a nice, delicious Jamaican curry stew with the bones in it. You know, you want to suck the bones, get the marrow out, get the juices out, and then spit out the stuff that is not digestible. Right? Now, let me just see. I think we've got a comment here. Sravana Ketu before I knew it. Sleeping Vishnu with the orbs around him. Wow, that's amazing, Hamster Heaven. And that sounds very Sravana Ketu. Thank you for sharing. Especially if... Excuse me, I'm a little bit sick. Excuse me. Especially with Ketu being the past life signifier. For Ketu to be in Sravana, it's interesting for you to have a vision like that. So thank you for sharing, Hamster Heaven. Now let's discuss these 4 classical nakshatra characteristics. There's the activity, which is either active, passive, or balanced. There's the 7 qualities of the nakshatra, which are in themselves interesting little indicators that come from various different texts. There's the sexual yoni animal. It's used in lunar compatibility and traditional Indian marriage assessment. And there's the kingdom, which is animal, plant, mineral. It's Dhaatu, Mula, and Jiva. Ernst Wilhelm gives particular credence to the kingdom, whether that's animal, plant, or mineral, in his little book, which we're going to be reading from. So, let's see here. Now, these are the Chara nakshatras. We have 2 ruled by, 2 that are animal nakshatras, Jiva, 2 that are mineral nakshatras, and then 1 that is a Mula, plant nakshatra. Sravana is nakshatra that is the nakshatra that relates with one of the mineral Chara nakshatras. So Chara kind of means movable, ephemeral. And there is a quality of Sravana, as I said, that it can be uprooting. There's a quality of it that has, it's, you know, especially, it's interesting, the moon reference, you know, because the moon is such a movable, adaptable signature. Sravana relates to the ear, listening, moving forward with what sounds correct. Any planets that we find in Sravana, we're going to find that we have this planet pulling us into change and transformation that follows the wisdom of those that came before us through our ears, which ears are ruled by Jupiter, or rather, the sound is ruled by Jupiter. There's wisdom. And Sravana intends to experience wisdom firsthand by walking towards it. The activity is actually passive, interestingly. It is more of a letting go type of personality. Letting go in order to walk towards what seems to be the wisdom at hand. its yoni is the female monkey, and it is a mineral, Dhaatu. Dhaatu. So it is a mineral kingdom sign. So it's always fun to kind of give a little heads up on the importance and the nature of these animal kingdom, this kingdom signature, because Ernst Wilhelm has given it particular credence in his 27 divine lunar energies of the nakshatras. So in the case of a Dhaatu energy nakshatra, there is a way to understand and to think about these energies. And the way to think about it is to regard them in the way that they are regarded in the Rashis. So this is how it works, is basically all the nakshatras go mineral, plant, animal, mineral, plant, animal, mineral, plant, animal, mineral, plant, animal. So the nakshatras that are in trines together, as well as 3 in thirds, because there's 27 nakshatras. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So nakshatra number 1, nakshatra number 4, nakshatra number 7, nakshatra number 10, they're all going to abide by the same animal kingdom. It's the same way in the tropical zodiac. The cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, are considered to be Dhaatu, which is mineral, just like Sravana. The fixed signs are Mula, plant, and then the mutable signs are Jiva, which is animal. Mutable tends to be, they say, it's dual. It combines some of the cardinal energy and some of the fixed energy. So that's what Jivas are all about. They're kind of adaptable. The cardinal signs, beginning with Aries, for example, it's the mineral world. It tends to dig into its immediate surroundings in order to find its peace, its happiness, its joy, its center, its nature, its environment. Its environment is its environment. The Dhaatu people are local. The Mula people kind of combine the local with the bigger world around, like the international world. And then the Jiva natives are international people who are travelers, who get on the internet and see trends and see how things work. Dhaatu people, such as Sravana, such as the 4 cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, they are more interested in digging their claws into what's in their immediate environment. I often think of it the metaphor of, like, someone who owns a car mechanic shop. A Dhaatu person, like Sravana, is mostly interested in the other mechanic shops around them, seeing what they offer, and even doing trades with them. They'll do business and organize them based on what the town needs. They'll go to somebody who specializes in trucks. They say, I see you specialize in trucks. I get a lot of people coming into me who are looking to work on trucks. Maybe I'll send them your way, and then you can send the people who come to you for cars my way. They'll go into junkyards around the local area, and they'll say, this junkyard often gets these transmissions that relate to cars that I have in my lot. So I'm going to go in there once in a while and see what I can feel around. And literally, they go to places, see what's in the environment, and deal with the objects and people that are in their locale. But specifically, the whole intention for Dhaatu people is to make their own business, have their own mark, their signature, that people can reliably come to them for as selling this product, as selling this innovation, this service, this item. They do tend to be entrepreneurial business people of a sort, and they do have this sense of wanting to Well, that is essentially where they localize their energy. Sravana, relating to Vishnu, is one who seeks a path. And the path that Sravana Nakshatra seeks, they can travel, they can kind of go all over with it. But a lot of the traveling they're doing, they're eventually looking to create a path for themselves that's grounded. They will do lots of scratching and seeking and searching, but that scratching and seeking and searching that can go all the way around, all over the place, will eventually land them somewhere in a spot that they call their roots, that they call their home, that they call their locale, where they can build an enterprise and a path that they've learned from listening and embody it in a practical, grounded way in a locale. This tends to be how Sravana tends to work. So I hope that's clear, and I hope that I didn't just skip my... Check 1, 2. Sorry everybody if I've lost you here. It looks like I'm healthy now. Let me know in the chat if you're watching, if my audio is off. I can see my computer is freezing, and that's real. 1, 2. Did some changes to my computer. And I can see that it might be causing us some trouble here. Hopefully my computer just gets over it. For my viewers who are watching, thank you for your patience. Occasionally my technology has to sputter and kaput a little bit, but it looks like we're back to normal now. So thanks to everybody who's still here and hanging out with us. Let's continue forward. Looks like we're okay. And like I said, if you're watching, the audio is not off. Thank you, Hamster Heaven. You are a hamster from heaven, and I appreciate you for being the person here with me to give me some ground control. Okay, good. So that was a little bit about the Dhaatu nature of Sravana, which is particularly relevant for anyone who has the ascendant or the moon here in this space, as well as Ketu. Ketu can be almost like a rising sign. Some people regard it as such. Now, let's start talking about a very important dimension of these Nakshatra Sutra videos. This is the structure of the Nakshatra Sutra itself. We have up here the true nakshatra name on the top left in gray. I get this diagram, by the way, from from Vic Dicara. Vic Dicara has done a lot of work on these nakshatras, and you can find that. I've got it here somewhere. It comes from Vic Dicara's Nakshatra Sutras course on his website. I highly recommend it. You can just go to vicdicara.com. So it's vicdicara.com that you'll find his Nakshatra Sutra courses, which has a lot of great information that I am essentially taking these from with his permission. So you'll see that there are 6 words that are featured in every one of these sutras. So this is the actual sutra, from this ancient text that we call the Taittiriya Brahmana. This is that commentary from the Krishna Yajurveda. It is a sutra. Now, it's worth just kind of mentioning here. Let's just talk a little bit, just for a moment, about a sutra. Sutra technically means like a thread. You know, they say a doctor's sutram. If you've got a big gash in your arm, the doctor takes the thread and boop, 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 and ties it up together. So what you see is the sutra on the surface. But if you were to take out the sutra, there'd be a wide opening full of dense information that the sutra is hiding. It's kind of like the tip of an iceberg. You see the tip of the iceberg, but there's actually a giant iceberg underneath it. It's the same for these sutras. The sutras are intended to convey only the tip, only the drippings, only the mercurial residual surface of a much deeper line of thinking and knowledge and resonating material. So this is what we can expect from each of these sutras. And how the sutras work is that back in the thousands of years ago, possibly 4,000 years ago, when these sutras were encoded, we had masterful poets and rishis, seers, who had the whole backdrop of all the Vedas to cull their information from. And the Vedas were such a wide corpus of data, of sounds, of ideas that were coming together at that time. There was so much of it. And all of the gods all had their ideas of how things were. Now, these guys knew about the nakshatras. 2000 BC, whatever it was. They knew about these nakshatras. They knew there was 27 or 28 of them, depending on what system you use. In our system, we're using the 27. And the same with the Taittiriya Brahmana. There's 27 featured asterisms. And they knew about all 27 of the gods associated with these 27 nakshatras. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to condense all of the information from the Vedas about these gods into these sweet little 6-line pockets. And they did it with, there's a musicality to it, you see. You know, there's something, we call it, like, in our English language, we call it Dadaism, where you can see it's like da-da-da-da-da-da, 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 da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, it's like there once was a man from New England. There once was a man from, all I can think is the Nantucket one, and it's dirty. It's called a limerick. Let me see if I can find a clean one. There once was a woman from da 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 da. Because of the rhyme, you're expecting a certain thing to hit at a certain time. You're expecting a certain beat. It's like beat poetry. The sutras have the same effect, where because there's 6 lines, and they know that they're going to put a certain data point in one of those lines, and it's anticipated that they know that you know that they could say anything in slot 1 and it'll mean a certain thing. So there's not just the word that's important, it's the slot that's important, and that's why we have color-coded these slots, as we can see here. So we've got slot A, B, C, D, E, and F. D and F are always the same. It's really the 4 words of A, B, C, and E that provide us the information that we seek from this Nakshatra Sutra. So, slot A, the pink word is the deity which rules this nakshatra in classical Vedic literature. So we're going to find Vishnu is going to be the first one, Vishnus. Now, of course, we next have the name of the nakshatra is in white. What's interesting is that sometimes obscure names are used to give more information. We have that similarly here in the case of today's nakshatra. Shrona is not necessarily the same as Sravana, although we're going to find there is a correlation, obviously. Shrona and Sravana. But that's how these roll, right? By using the word, a slightly nuanced word, it gives more information. Now, the word in yellow is what we call the foundation from above. This is what this nakshatra needs to function properly. Then the word parastat, it's the same in every sutra. It indicates that this previous word is what is needed. So we need the yellow word in order to produce the blue word. And that's what we call the foundation below. It's what the nakshatra desires to produce from what it receives. And then avastat, it says the same thing. So we need the yellow word to produce the blue word. That's what's being conveyed here. So the deity called this requires the yellow word to produce the blue word. That is the structure of the sutras. And we see it here in Sravana. It's the same thing. Vishnu also called Shrona, needs Prachamana in order to produce Panta. So Prachamana, I almost feel like I should have taken a trip to get the pronunciation right on that. We might just have a bit of fun here. Hopefully YouTube doesn't kill me for doing this. I got a feeling that it might. Let's see here. Sravana Vic Dicara. Can you guys see me here? Yes, you can. Please don't kill me, YouTube. Please don't kill me, YouTube. Let's see. All right. Prachamana Padastad. Got it. So if you ever want to hear more about this nakshatra, I highly recommend Vic Dicara's Life Lessons of the Nakshatras. It's a great little snippet describing the nature of these nakshatras. So I just wanted to really get the Prachamana, how to pronounce that particular word. Hello there, Adam I. Eva. Nice to have you here hanging out with us. So now this is our sutra for today. We're going to get two different sources for translating it. But before we do, let's just dig right in and get the sound for this nakshatra and start to get a sense of the proper way to really digest these nakshatras, which, by the way, is worth mentioning here. The best way to digest the nature of all of these nakshatras is to learn the sutra, learn the mouth nuances of it, learn the meaning of the words if you can help it as much as you can, and roll it on your tongue. You know, I am especially, I'm the type of person who likes to go off. I like to have a fire, especially during moments in my life where it's relevant to me to bring out and invoke the energy of the nakshatra in question. I often do it with my Ketu and Rahu nakshatras when there's a Rahu or Ketu eclipse. Sometimes I'll do my own nakshatra of Jesta. My moon is in Jesta in times where that feels appropriate. And it just helps me to learn about myself. Even better than doing what we're doing here, which is reading my interpretation of someone else's interpretation, even going right to the guts of Ernst and Vic. How they get the guts is that they do what I'm talking about, which is that they meditate on and contemplate the original sound of the sutra. And then they say, this is what I'm seeing from this. But you can get, you're only seeing their iceberg interpretation, but they've got the deeper iceberg within them. You can get the deeper iceberg within. You can get the whole context of the sutra by learning what it means from these guys and rolling the words in your tongue. So let's do it today. Just to get a little bite of it. This is how it would go. Hopefully I can do this justice. Now there's a few things, whenever you see a dot underneath an S, it's a sh sound. A dot above an S similarly has a sh, but it's a sort of a softer sh. It's like a sh. There's sh like in the back, like in the mid palate, and then there's a s. It's on the front palate. It's like a s, but sh. It's like a aspirated S. Vishnos Shrona. Now the A, when it's got an A on the top, you want to almost imagine that it's ah, like you're saying ah twice. Ah. Vishnos Shrona. So when there's a dot underneath the R, it's going to be pr, almost like a rig. Like when you look at the word the Rig Veda, there's no actually I in Rig Veda. It's just an R with a dot at the bottom. Pr, pr. So this is Prachamana. And then there's a H. There's a lot of grammar in this one. Bear with me, it's worth it. This is just the nature of what we got to explain when we're teaching Sanskrit. So it's prichamana, prichamana. So the two A's are a little bit elongated with the lines on the top of them, and the H has a H. When you ever have a dot at the bottom of the H, it gives a H sound. And then parastat, panta, avastat. So, to bring it all together, I'm going to go nice and slow first, and then we'll do it at a regular pace. Om Vishnu Shronuna Prichamana Parastat Panta Avastat. It has this kind of melodic up and down to it. Vishnu Shrona Prachamana Parastat Pantavastat. Vishnu Shrona Prachamana Parastat Pantavastat. I keep forgetting that H in there. Prachamana Parastat. Vishnu Shrona Prachamana Parastat Pantavastat. That one's a tough one. Like I said, if you have any trouble with this one, I recommend checking out Vic Dicara's presentation of it. He had some of his students, including me, study it, digest it, and then be a part of him doing it on that video that I just showed. Now we are going to get interpretations of this sutra from two different places. One of them is, again, coming from Ernst Wilhelm. You should be able to find it. I think I've had trouble looking for it. You might just find it on Ernst Wilhelm's astrology videos. Astrology videos, energies of the Lunar Nakshatras. You're complete. So that's me. Energies of the Lunar Nakshatras PDF. Please download my free book, Energies of the 27 Nakshatras. Yeah, that would be it, I think. So, look to Vedic-astrology.net, and you will have the English and Romanian versions of Ernst's translation of the Nakshatra Sutras from the Taittiriya Brahmana. So, find it there for yourself. There you will find a free version of this little thing that I've printed off for myself and lost the first page on. And it is his very bare bones translation of the Nakshatra Sutra from the Taittiriya Brahmana. So I like to get this translation from two different sources. First, we go with Ernst Wilhelm, because Ernst Wilhelm is going to give us a bare bones translation that is almost enigmatic. Like, he doesn't make it easier for you. He doesn't explain it. So it doesn't even, the sentence doesn't make sense in English when you read it from Ernst Wilhelm. He's giving us the raw bones of the sutra, and then we are going to listen to Vic Dicara's interpretation, where Vic Dicara says, this is what it means. But before we hear from Vic his idea of what it means, we're going to hear from Ernst's very raw version of what it says. So let's go in and dig into Ernst Wilhelm's depiction of this Nakshatra Sutra. It's Vishnu Shrona Prachamana Parastat Pantavastat. So we actually hear that, I didn't put it in here, but Sravana, the Shravishtaha. No, excusez-moi. That is for the next sutra. That's for Tanishta. So Shrona of the Vishnu deity. And Shrona is described as cripples. Someone who is lame. Which is very interesting. So the first word, Vishnos, relates to the Sanskrit word Vishnaha, which is of Vishnu, of the all-pervasive. And that's really what Vishnu means, essentially. It's the all-pervasive one. Shrona is plural. It means cripples, or someone who is lame, someone walks with a limp. We're going to see how this very much relates to this walker that Sravana tends to be. Now, Prachamanaha is plural and is the inquiring of ideas, or inquiring ideas. So these are ideas that are inquiring. So the cripples of Vishnu are inquiring ideas from above, para, stat, and paths, panta, and paths from below. So the cripples of Vishnu, the lame, limping, walking cripples of Vishnu, are inquiring ideas from above and paths from below, which means the nature of Vishnu and its crippled walkers is people who have inquiring ideas, or these are the inquiring ideas themselves. And those inquiring ideas, that curiosity, is what produces paths. It's interesting that consciousness, we could call consciousness as infinite and eternal. And already we're starting to get a sense that the infinitude of consciousness, the world works in a certain way. Language, they say that language is maktub, it's already written. We're just blowing the dust off a book that's already there. And when we inquire as to the inquiring inquirer, to the thing that's doing the inquiring, into consciousness, we will find paths, because the paths are already there. But we have to inquire about them, and this requires a dedicated walking. This requires a walking of these paths, and that is really what this all is going to boil down to, so far as I can convey it. The cripples of Vishnu are inquiring ideas from above and paths from below. So, let's dig into this a little bit. This is Sravana Nakshatra Sutra from the Taittiriya Brahmana. Now we are digging into Vic Dicara's translation on the subject. All right, so now we're getting into the works that were given by Vic Dicara. There's our boy. Great dude. Very selfless service to the world with the knowledge he's shared. And part of that is this book, Nakshatra, the Authentic Heart of Vedic Astrology. So we're going to be getting into this, but before we even do, we are first going to digest this little slide, which has actually been given from his Nakshatra Sutras course on his website. I can't in good consciousness share this without saying that's where this little slide here, the pink, the white, the yellow, and the blue depiction of these words and what they're good, what this nakshatra is good and bad for. This all comes from Vic Dicara's Nakshatra Sutras course on his website. I highly recommend you check it out because I'm only warming it up for him. So, Vishnu, we're going to hear more about each of these words, but this is just to get us a taste of this sutra. Vishnu, or Vishnu, is the one in everything, everywhere consciousness. That's what they call God, as being omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. The one, the whole world is made up of one. You know, find me one thing that is not one with everything. You know, that old joke. Really, we are all one. You know, you guys have all heard that joke. Someone goes to the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama goes to a pizza shop. The guy says, "What do you want?" And the Dalai Lama says, "Make me one with everything." Ba-dumps. And the guy says, there's some stupid joke where it's like, the Dalai Lama gives him money. He gives him a $20 bill. And he says, "Can I have my change back?" The pizza guy says, "Change comes from within, buddy." But, stupid joke, dad joke. Gotta love it. Gonna make a great dad someday. But the real crack here is that the Dalai Lama doesn't make people one with everything. A guru doesn't make you be one with everything. The one is already inside of us all. We just have to inquire and follow paths that allow us to realize it. So that is the deal there. In any case, Vishnu is the one in everything. Now, Shrona is the pathwalker. It's interesting that Ernst is correct, and Vic Dicara is going to talk more about how this word really relates to a limping pathwalker. He actually gives us several ways of understanding this Nakshatra Sutra, because it actually has layers. There's A is that it's a pathwalker, and B is that it's an experienced person. Either way, this shows that Vishnu is the oldest thing that there is. Being itself is the oldest one. Everything comes from this, everything returns to this, and it's always the same, even though it wears a different face and a different mask in every galaxy, in every universe, on every planet, in every person, in every animal, in every atom. It's the same one, experienced through different variegated forms and experiences. We are all one. And that one, the bones of the transmigrating flesh, the spiritual bones of the transmigrating material flesh, is the oldest thing imaginable. I'm just writing that down because that's a good line. On the transmigrating flesh. I'm into poetry, and this kind of cosmic poetry is up my alley. But so, because it's so old, there is an indication, almost like Saturn. Saturn, you know, they say it's got a bummed leg. If you've ever seen the symbol of Saturn, right? Saturn is essentially a cross. Hopefully you guys can see me here. It's a cross, and it's got a little bummed leg. Right there. That's Saturn's little bummed leg. So it relates to things getting older. It relates to experience having been carved out on the material plane. This is relevant for the idea of Vishnu, for the idea of Shrona. It is this limping walker who has this experience under its belt. So it's a path walker, And even when we're young, this is a person who likes to walk so much that they become someone who ends up limping because they got so much path that they've walked. And it's an experienced person. And the experienced person is a key thing that we're going to read as we go along. Now, Prichamanaha is an inquisitiveness, inquiring ideas, and ideas that bring about inquiry. It's a person who's always questioning, but why? You know, little kids can be super annoying with like, why? They're always inquiring, why does that work that way? Why? And they can go forever on it. And you could say, well, because that's the way it is. Why? Because that's the way it's always been. Why? Because it can't be any other way. Why? Well, why not? You know, you can get annoyed with them, but really they're just being Vishnu. And it is that eternal inquisitiveness that brings us to the path, Panta. Now, this nakshatra, there's a wisdom here that's universal to everybody, but there's also a nature that is conducive to a native whose moon or ascendant or south node or perhaps just any important combination of planets can be in Sravana, and it will be more relevant to them than it would to others. So we hear that Sravana is good for education, learning, training, progress, comprehension, and the establishment of concepts. But in the negative side of it, they're easily distracted. They love to go on that wandering walk. And they are intellectual wanderers. At some point, you've just got to start getting down to it and doing something with the wandering that you've done. Excuse me. And this is the black and white. This is the tail and front end of Sravana Nakshatra. Now, this tiny little condensation is what Vic gives us from his Nakshatra Sutra course. We hear that the all-pervading pathwalker needs inquisitiveness to walk a path. We might call this, in some ways, you could see a window into the meaning of life. In this very simple phrase, Vishnu is everything, and everything wants to experience everything. Let me just say that again. Oh my gosh, you guys couldn't even see this anyway. The all-pervading pathwalker needs inquisitiveness to walk a path. Now, unfortunately, I've got to show this again, just so you guys can see it. We're talking about the good that can come from this nakshatra and the negative. They're easily distracted, intellectual wandering. Because I think that I was talking and you guys couldn't, I wasn't sharing my screen. Now we see from Ernst's Nakshatra Sutra's course on his website, tells us that the all-pervading pathwalker needs inquisitiveness to walk a path. And this is again what I'm going to say here. Vishnu is everything, and everything wants to experience everything. Surprise! Hi, Vishnu. Nice to see ya. Everything wants to experience everything. It's super just an incredibly psychedelic thing. I actually want to write that down too. No, my pen. Everything wants to experience everything. And if you can really sit with that one on your tongue, you'll start to really gain an understanding of everybody as Vishnu, of what humans are doing on this planet, and particularly with the nature of Sravana natives, who are acting as Vishnu, and who are a limb, a finger of everything, reaching out to experience everything. But just make sure that everything doesn't turn into a jack of all everything and a master of nothing. That's the line that this nakshatra has to walk. No pun intended. So now from Vic Dicara's actual book, Nakshatra, the authentic heart of Vedic astrology, where he actually dialed it in even more when he wrote this book. So he gives two, this is the only nakshatra where he gives two renditions of this nakshatra. The first one is the limping walker needs to fix a goal in order to walk the path. And this is for the general, this is especially related to Sravana Nakshatra natives. This other one is more related to the overall lesson of Sravana that we all need to hear as a lesson of the meaning of life and consciousness. The left one here relates more to simply to Sravana Nakshatra itself. The limping walker needs to fix a goal to walk the path. The limping walker means that they haven't fully established a path yet. They need to have a goal, or else they're going to be wandering a lot, and their wandering is limping. They're not really walking forward at a good pace because they haven't fixed a goal yet. So you need to have goals in order to walk the path, and then you won't be limping anymore. On the other hand, it is the experienced perceiver that walks with a limp, that is the old wise person, needs to constantly inquire in order to establish a path. So there's two layers of here, and we're going to start getting into it right now, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we're an hour in to our video today. I hope you guys have been enjoying this. We're going to keep going, but I think I'm going to take a quick bathroom break. I'm going to have a piece of chocolate. It's like a salty salt chocolate, fleur de sel. Oh man, that's really good. I think I'm hungrier than I thought. I digress. Let's take a little break. I'm going to do bathroom number 1. The one and only bathroom break. Well, I might have another one at the end. We'll see. But it's not going to be number 2. It's going to be number 1. So I'll be quick. Sorry. This is how I roll on my show here, I guess, folks. Then when I come back, we're going to continue learning about Sravana Nakshatra Sutra from Vic Dicara. See you guys in just 1 second. 1 second. Oh, sweet. Oh, man. Not gonna lie to you, this chocolate is pretty good. Not the hugest fan of milk chocolate. Usually. But this is hitting. This is doing the thing. I figure I should mute my microphone so you guys don't hear me making out with this chocolate. Okay, looks like we got everything we need here, folks. Hamster Heaven has given us some wisdom. This gives a more comprehensive view of what your values are. Yes, Sravana is everything wanting to experience everything for itself. And it's by knowing yourself that the path means something. That's why really what Vishnu is truly finding is its true nature, its inner self, and it wants to see that nature embodied in a meaningful life path. And it needs to have that embodiment factor in order for the paths that it's constantly exploring to mean something. It's just like the Bhagavad Gita says, you're better off suffering in your own dharma than being comfortable in someone else's. Your dharma is sort of like your path. It is your path, your way of experiencing and being the divine infinite one. And everybody has their own way of going about that and doing that. You have your particular way, and it's better to suffer in your own nature than to be comfortable in someone else's. That's a good one to stew on, but that's classic Bhagavad Gita, if you've ever heard of the Bhagavad Gita before. So let's move forward and talk a little bit more about Vic Dicara's depiction of Vishnu as relates to Sravana, the pathwalker. So we can see here, this is again the only commentary where we see literally two different endpoints. The limping walker needs to fix a goal to walk the path. The experienced perceiver needs to inquire to establish a path. So let's get into the roots of each of these words now. Here we have Vic Dicara describing in great detail each of these words, beginning with Vishnu. The word Vishnu is based on the root vish, which means pervasive. The god named Vishnu is an entity who permeates everything as a natural result of being the essence of everything. I haven't yet remembered my past life from the 60s and early 70s. It hasn't come to me yet, but if it ever does, Jerry Michael, I'll let you know. Now, since Vishnu, excuse me, since Vishnu is all-pervasive, he is everywhere, which makes him the master of getting to any location. Thus, one role that Vishnu plays is as the god of locomotion, getting from here to there. The second role that Vishnu plays is to be the essence and foundation of everything. According to the Vedas, the essence and foundation of reality is the perceiver of reality, which is consciousness. Consciousness is the foundation of reality and its essence. This Vishnu is both the god of locomotion and the god of consciousness. And because consciousness is the supreme thing, Vishnu is generally venerated as the supreme divinity, the supreme divine being. So accordingly, Vic has translated this sutra in two ways, one based on Vishnu being the god of movement, and the other based on Vishnu being the god of consciousness, both being important and relevant. Now, let's next discuss what Vic Dicara gives us about the term Shrona. Now, this word Shrona describes a person who has walked a path, who has walked far, So often this word has the connotations of an older person who is a bit tired out from all that walking, but is very experienced as a result of it. Thus, it often refers to people who walk slowly or with a limp or with a cane. The limping walker. So now today, the more common name for this nakshatra, Sravana, is Sravana. That's what we know it as. And Sravana has a very similar meaning. It means one who has heard and learned. Now, the next word up, we have prachamana. Prachamana. This word is based on the word pracha, and it indicates curiosity and inquisitiveness. The walker needs to inquire about what lies ahead, and this is what this asterism requires. Remember, this is the padastat, prachamana padastat. What's needed to provide a foundation above for what's coming down below. What's needed is to inquire about what lies ahead, which is an interesting way of putting it. Everybody has a fate, a destiny, a dharma. And so to inquire about what is my fate, what is my destiny, what lies ahead for me, is a very Sravana thing. And it's the inquiry, the constant checking and figuring things out that is important to this nakshatra and to anyone with important points related to it. Figuring things out, there might always be more path to figure out for someone who has Sravana emphasis. I have Saturn here. Saturn also rules my north node and Uranus and Neptune. It's my strongest planet. And I'm 33 years old, turning 34 in like a month. And I can feel that at age 36, Saturn matures. I feel my Saturn maturing, and up to this point, I've been seeking a path and not really finding it. It's only now that I'm starting to get a grip on it. And this has come from me constantly inquiring, constantly checking, feeling things out, trying new paths. And it's because I've been trying them out that I've been walking with a limp for my whole life and not fully walking on an established path. We're going to hear about how Saturn can have this effect in this nakshatra. But the same would be indicated for anyone with Ketu or Rahu. Rahu in Sravana is going to really open up to the path and go forward with it like they never have around age 43. When Rahu matures, Ketu, a person with Ketu in this spot, is really going to find that they are limping, seeking a path, almost not having a good taste for even being finitely narrowed down to a certain path until they're 48. And then it'll suddenly blow up. I think that's something worth writing down here, I reckon. Ketu matures at 48. Rahu matures at 43. Just a reminder for myself. So let's look at our next word, which is panta. A short one, which of course is describing the path. The word panta indicates a path. A path is an established route. So it indicates an established way of doing or thinking, a tradition or school of thought. A path is just like, if you've ever walked through a forest and you've noticed that there's green grass all throughout the forest, but then for some reason there'll be one part of the green that is trodden on, and it's more dirt and gravel. It's from people constantly stepping on the grass there. A path has been created by those who have walked through that same spot, that same route, because for some reason there's a chi flow there that has had people walking from this point to this point through the forest at the same place, and everyone carves that path by walking it. So this is an established way of doing or thinking, a tradition or school of thought. It's a truth. So these truths are uncovered by walkers. We almost make these paths ourselves. But the walking happens because of the way lines of chi, of wisdom, like I said. The reason that these paths appear in the forest is because there's a reason why people are walking on that point and not anywhere else. The path is already there even before we've started walking on it. But it's the walkers who reveal the path. So, in summary, to give a little summary of what we read from these two derivations, in the sense of Vishnu being the god of locomotion, a person who struggles to go far, that's Vishnos, Shrona, Vishnos being all-pervasive, and Shrona being a limping walker. This is someone who struggles to go far. They need to inquire, prachamana, about the objectives and goals so that they can ascertain the correct paths, the panta, to attain those goals. So they need to inquire about their path, of what is their path, about their objectives. Where am I going? That's when the path will start to carve itself right in front of their eyes. Now, read in the sense of Vishnu being the god of consciousness, what we read is that an experienced perceiver of life, it's Vishnu's Shrona, should inquire into the ultimate goals of life. That's prachamana, so that he or she can establish a path to those goals. It's panta. And this is what we get from the general life lesson, as we're going to hear, is that progress is difficult. I'm going to put this, let's do this now. So this is the life lesson that we can receive from Sravana Nakshatra. And then after this, we're going to read about planets falling in this nakshatra. The general life lesson that we receive from Sravana is that progress, which is Sravana, learning and experiencing, progress is difficult if one does not have a clear goal. So the most important first step to success is to ask a lot of questions, prachamana, for the sake of discovering and clarifying what is really worthwhile in life. What's even worthwhile clarifying? What's worthwhile inquiring about? What do we really want, and where do we really want to go? Once we have our goals clarified, it's far easier to stay on track, panta, path, and make steady, rapid progress towards our goals. Once we have a goal clarified, then we can use the magic of inviting the mystery of imagination and divine intelligence to hear the path that is already on the ground. It's already there. We just have to walk it. We have to stomp on that grass and realize that the way line of chi has already been carved into the forest for us. But we have to think about where we want to go before those paths reveal themselves. We have to ask for them. We have to listen. We have to pray, and we have to hear with our ears what is the path that is intended for our objectives and goals that we've clarified for ourselves through prachamana, through inquiry. Without clear and compelling goals, we will wander around distracted, limping forward slowly in life. It's Shrona. However, if we do clearly determine compelling goals, we will travel quickly and effectively to maturity and mastery of those subjects, which is another word for the experienced walker that we find in the word Shrona. So an old person who has much wisdom and experience regarding that thing, because they've walked that path. So the limper is two sides of the equation here. The limper is the one who limps until they find a path. And once they find the path, they almost are a master walking with a cane because they've gone so hard on that path. And of course, the sutra also hints at the deep, really beautiful truth that Vic Dicara clarifies for us here. That if we inquire deeply and wisely enough, we will eventually discover that the ultimate and most compelling goal is Vishnu, consciousness, the inner voice. Consciousness, Vishnu, is the perceiver of all things, the essence of all things, which means it is the most amazing subject. When consciousness can fully and directly experience itself, it is able to experience the most amazing of all perceivable things. Indeed, all of the Vedas encourage and guide us to this ultimate goal. The Vedas are described as Shruti, a word which is the natural object of Sravana. The learned one who has listened. Beautiful. Gotta love Vic Dicara. So that was the general picture. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to describe the part that I'm sure many of you are here for. Let's get into interpreting planets in the sign of Sravana. Let's dig into it. Now, this is what Vic Dicara describes as the interpretive section. Sravana Nakshatra is very welcome for learning new things effectively and for figuring out intelligent and effective ways to achieve goals. Intelligent planets like Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter therefore tend to indicate positive implications here. Mercury especially indicates linguistic intellect. Venus gives knowledge on how to partner and cooperate. And Jupiter signifies access to good source of knowledge. It is, however, an unwelcome nakshatra for staying put in one place. Planets that like to be fixed can kind of clash with this nakshatra. The sun here suggests difficulty settling down and rooting. Saturn suggests remaining young for a long time. A positive thing, but which also involves a lack of settling and rooting. Something I can deeply relate with. Now, planets which like to move are fairly positive here. The cyclic moon indicates good sense of rhythm and music, and an ability to travel frequently and effectively. Maverick Mars here indicates the ability to blaze one's own trails, rather than following the paths paved by others. But it does also suggest some unwillingness to listen and learn from others with humility. The uprooting nodes signify far travels and exotic conclusions and lifestyles. Very interesting that the nodes can have this conveyance of the conveyances of this traveling seeker. In the context of the nodes, Sravana becomes an exotic traveler. Far travels with exotic conclusions and lifestyles, exotic reasons and goals. And the nodes are always an interesting thing to talk about. Let's now, ladies and gentlemen, take a moment, take however long it takes. We're going to now discuss the nodes, Rahu and Ketu, and what they are like when they fall into the sign of Sravana. Now, if you've ever seen me doing one of these before, welcome. My name is Dustin Cormier. Just for the sake of it, if you're watching this now, if you enjoy the work that I'm doing here, feel free to check me out at dustincormier.com/subscribe, and you'll be able to check out my work listening to the Rahu and Ketu throughout the nodes, Rahu and Ketu throughout the nakshatras on my YouTube channel, as well as all the work that I have coming out, including some books that I'm going to be writing in a matter of time. I'm writing at the moment. And it's going to have, I'm going to do my own tropical Vedic astrology book, as well as some poetry and psychedelic spiritual stuff. So if you're interested in anything like that, join me in my email list. It's free, and you can get your ears out for more of the work coming your way from me. So, Sravana Nakshatra, we've just done a whole video describing it, and now this is the section where I describe the Rahu and Ketu position in the nakshatra of Sravana. What we always do is I like to describe first what it's like when Ketu is in Sravana. The key theme that we know about Sravana is a wonderful phrase that I've just been digesting and chewing on. It's everything wants to experience everything. Vishnu is the one that pervades all things. It is everything in its essence, in its beingness. And it is the oldest thing that there is. Which means the words indicated in this sutra, such as Shrona, Sravana. Shrona indicates a limping walker. That's the first half of that, the immature half of that, means that this is someone who has not established a goal. And so this is somebody who wants to establish a goal. And once they establish the goal, they can master it. They master it so well. Before they master it, how I describe this is kind of like, if you ever played an old video game, where some of those old video games, you'd have a walk button, or if you press forward on the control pad, the person walks forward. If you hold, like, say, the A button while you press forward, they run. Now, usually you start walking and then you run. But if you hold the A button and you press forward, the person's like this. You know, they're going forward and then back, stopping, forward and stopping. And it's almost like annoying. That's why you'd usually just walk. You only run when you're running a long distance. In the same way, this is the limping walker. This is Shrona. This is somebody who is jumping forward and then they're limping because they don't really know where they're going. They haven't established a path. They haven't inquired enough to feel confident in the path that is being unfolded for them and that they can say is an officially established path for them. What's funny and tricky is that anybody with a lot of any significations of planets or the nodes inside of Sravana are probably always going to kind of feel like there's more path to uncover. Like I haven't fully landed yet. Until they get older. It's only when you're older that you have now become the old man with a cane who's now on the other side of this nakshatra's pervasive meaning, which means that you have mastered a path. You're walking with a cane. You don't have to show off to anybody because you have completed the work that everybody can see that you are Shrona. You are the experienced walker who has experience in this realm. Hey, Robbie, nice to see you. So, when we have the nodes here, we've just read from Vic Dicara, the uprooting nodes in the sign of Sravana signify far travels and exotic conclusions and lifestyles. Both of the nodes are going to be looking far and deep because the moon's nodes relate to an evolutionary narrative inside the soul. We've come here from our past lives connected to the south node to integrate the south node with the north node. The south node is Ketu. It's a flag. It's a castle flag that we have come from our past lives from, but it's almost smoky and it's misty. It's telescopic. There's a certain word I'm thinking of. It has a condensed viewpoint, and it's narrow. It needs to experience the Ketu position of the castle. It needs to experience Rahu in order to truly appreciate the Ketu castle, the flag where we come from. It's like, imagine you're born in India, and then your whole life you're living in India, and then around age 36, the nodes start to really open up, and you go to Rahu land, which means you go to America, or you go to the United Kingdom or Canada, somewhere in the Western world where it's a whole different world, whole different ball game, completely different world. You don't know any of the rules. You've heard of them, but you're a person who's been in India since you were 36. Now you're in this whole new world, very different. The lights are bright and flashy, and it takes you a long time to get used to it. It's very painful to go into Rahu, to enter such an unknown world. But it's also the most satisfaction we can ever get is following Rahu. When we go into Rahu, it's actually, I should say this really, is that Rahu clears the smoke so that we can gain the greatest satisfaction we're ever going to get, which is appreciating what we've always been. It's not Rahu that does this. Rahu blows the smoke away from Ketu. Then when we go back, we come back from Britain or America, we come back to India where we started in Ketu, where our castle flag is. Now we can appreciate it. Now we are an Indian who has become aware of the rest of the world outside of India. Now we can master India because we've seen it outside of its context. We've seen it outside of the fishbowl. You ever heard that there's an old story of two fish. They're young fish, and they got their little scholar caps on. And they're swimming along, and they're buddies, and they're just, checking. He's like, what's going on, man? What's going on? And they're chatting. And this old man fish with glasses, an old Shrona, comes up beside them and says, hey, boys, how's the water today? And then he drives. He swims along and says, have a good one. And the two fish are like, and they look at each other, and they're like, what did he say? What the heck is water? Did he say, how's the water? What does he mean by that? Because these two young fish don't realize that they're swimming in water. The old man fish has seen enough of the world that he sees the environment he was born in a different context, so he can see the water. But the young fish can't see the water. That's the mistiness of Ketu. You can't see it until you go into Rahu, especially at age 36, and matures at age 43, and then you come back to appreciate Ketu. Now, if you've got Ketu in Sravana, then this is the path, the seeker of paths, the seeker of consciousness, is ultimately going to be the great liberating realization that you come back to. But in your 40s, you're going out to Rahu land, where you are going to open up to the nakshatras of Pushya or Ashlesha, depending on where your Rahu is. And your Ketu will eventually mature. Your Ketu in Sravana will eventually mature. So, the other way around can happen as well. Let's begin now, ladies and gentlemen. Check, marker, break. This is where we're going to first begin talking about what's it like when we have Ketu in Sravana. So when you have Ketu in Sravana, you live your whole life seeking a path, seeking many paths, looking to experience everything that you can, but not finding a fixed goal. You probably have not yet found for yourself something that you would satisfyingly call the goal that means something special and important to you. And it's ironic that the established goal that you probably end up landing on is a goal seeker, is a path seeker. It's the destination is the journey for this here, right? You don't realize that this whole time you're seeking a path, you might find some established paths. And whenever you find an established path, there's always more path to seek. There's always more consciousness within you that you have to let go of this path in order to follow the deeper path within. And you might find that you need to do that while juggling the human material affairs of having children, having a career, being an artist, doing whatever it is that you wanted that you do. And it might feel like I'm being uprooted. Ketu in Sravana might actually uproot you and make you seek to go and live in faraway lands. That might be your root in some level. It is a traveler. It is a sound traveler. It travels the byways of sound. And Ketu in Sravana is this person who ultimately lands on being this worldly, this worldly person who knows a lot about the world, but ultimately ends up using it, again, as we know in the Dhaatu nature of Sravana, to pencil down, to use its experience and knowledge to develop and embody a grounded experience in a locale, to develop those roots. But even then, when you do, you'll probably find, especially when you're 48, that Ketu just becomes the castle where you lay your head, where you lay your feet, where it's the place where you gather and store the knowledge, the data. It's a place where your mail goes, basically. It's your address. It's the place where you put on your government tax forms, but everything else you do is as a wandering person living this exotic lifestyle, likely. Obviously, all of this is going to depend on the natal chart. But at 48, you're going to feel like you are okay with and have accepted this person who's allows yourself to be uprooted, to find exotic new ways of living and being while still having roots, because everybody needs to have roots. You're like a plant that you tie a rope to a tree and then you wander off to the halfway to the other side of the planet, and then you pull on your rope to make yourself come back home. You'll always have that home. It might be a family, it might be whatever, but you do want to have some kind of roots, because that's going to help you go deeper. You need to establish a path in order to go deeper on this path. And this is probably the thing that's going to be the painful thing that you have to learn throughout your 40s. And the nature of how that's going to unfold for you as a Ketu and Sravana person, the nature of how Rahu is going to make you appreciate that you need an established path, but that established path relates to path seeking. You need to find a rooted life that allows you to open up to more internal seeking of the Vishnu within you, of your own self, of your own consciousness, of your own nature. In order to establish those roots at age 36, and especially up to age 43, you're going to go through the slow maturation of Rahu. And that is going to be how this narrative unfolds for you. So Rahu can be in one of two places for you if you have Ketu and Sravana. Rahu can be in Pushya or Ashlesha. Let's take a quick peek at what we can expect from Rahu in Pushya. Really, Pushya is ruled by Brahaspati. It is it is the sage nakshatra. So having Rahu in Brahaspati, the message is the success of the master advisor needs tongues for the aspirant. It's a ceremonial motif. Brihaspati is a foremost expert on Vedic ceremony, and it is the priest of the gods. That's Brihaspati. So the Rahu in you in Pushya probably seeks to push to the nth degree ceremonial religious activities. And you might want to do things ceremoniously. And you've probably never felt, up to the age of about 36, you've always felt like, I'm not in any religion, because you're Sravana, you're seeking a path. At some point, you're going to want to just dig deeply into some kind of established path or tradition with Rahu and Pushya. And you're probably going to want to do it with the help of some kind of sage, some kind of priest, some kind of guide, some kind of interpreter, some kind of guru figure. Now, malfunctions in Pushya indicate being at odds with teachers and guides. And there's a hesitation due to feeling insufficiently educated, under-advised, and ill-informed. It's supposed to be a feminine and nourishing nakshatra. So stricter indications can have this malfunction. It's a skepticism of guides that Rahu in Pushya can bring on, which has a rational cause, but needs to be realistically resolved. You know, these people can have an indecisiveness, Rahu in Pushya. It's, should I strike while the iron's hot, or is the iron not hot enough yet? Should I wait till I am more prepared? We don't get any specific advice about the nodes here. But the deal here is that instead of just, if you always just hang without preparation, I wonder, Hamster Heaven, let me know where your Rahu is. Just for curiosity's sake. Is your Rahu in Pushya or is it in Ashlesha? Now, for Rahu in Pushya, this is somebody who, at some level, they're going to try to be... There's the same theme is playing on the Ketu and Sravana, which is, I'm seeking a path. And I ultimately want an established path. But what if this isn't the right one? This is especially what Rahu and Pushya and Ketu and Sravana are going to have this annoying ding, 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 ding back and forth. Are my teachers right? Are these teachers right? And ultimately, at some level, you have to dance between the two nodes by digging into Pushya, just digging into a religion, digging into a spiritual path, yoga, Taoism, Sikhism, Kundalini, Tantra, psychology, Carl Jungian archetypes, anything that you can do to put a few steps on that path. Do it in an embodied and literal and true way. Really do it. Play with it. Be playful with it. Have fun with it. And eventually what you're probably going to want to, what you'll probably find is that you go a few steps onto that path and realize it's not the right path for you. But there has been clues that are bringing you closer to the path that you are seeking. So the Pushya has to tip forward. It has to push you a little bit. That's just me being silly. There's no actual correlation there. But Rahu is going to push you into a certain path for a little bit. You feel it out, you explore it, you have fun with it, and you really taste it and try it on. And then Sravana is going to inquire, ask, why would this be the right path for me? What is it about this path that I do like? What is it about this path that I don't like? And then you ask your teachers and question your teachers about it. But it's good for you, especially if you have a good Jupiter. You'll find teachers who are understanding of you asking questions. So ideally, you've got a good Jupiter in this situation. So you have somebody who you can ask questions to and say, this is why I don't feel this is right for me. And they might push you. And they might tell you, you think all that, but keep trying it for this reason, for this much time, then come back to me, see how it feels. Try it for a year. Doing this, I'm going to be with you. We'll go back and forth. Thanks, Hamster Heaven. So you're up next for Ashlesha. We'll talk about how you're going through this with Pushya, Rahu and Pushya. Up to age 43, you're going to be feeling out for ceremonial things that never feel like they work. And it's going to be very uncomfortable to be not wandering anymore. But at age 43, you're going to find ceremonies and roots related to traditions, spiritual religious traditions, that you can see past the glamour on the surface and find the most important thing, which is, how does this relate to me? You'll be able to cherry pick from religions in order to ultimately stop buzzing like a bee, like an excited bee. This is a Ramana Maharshi parable. There's a bee, and he does all this excited buzzing when it's going to find the flower and the pollen. But when it's finally drinking from it, there's no noise. There's no talking about religion. There's no saying, oh, this is different for this reason, blah, blah, blah. There's just drinking the nectar of the direct experience of Vishnu, of your true transcendental consciousness. Once you get that taste, you don't need to buzz around saying, where's my religion? Where's my religion? It's within you. And you've just found any old path up the same old mountain. At age 43, you're going to start to feel like you're getting a grip on what religion is supposed to mean. And this will allow you to fall back into your nature as an ultimately inquiring person, a questioning person, and a person who does ultimately seek ultimate goals and answers to my consciousness through Vishnu. So the Pushya Rahu person has a little bit more, it's technically the safer, more classic traditional path, although Rahu here is going to make you be, it can be uncomfortable. You know, Rahu seeking the different ways of exploring Pushya can make your gurus uncomfortable. Your gurus will sense that you have Rahu and Pushya, even if you don't show them your kundli. They're going to sense it. They're going to say, you know, you are pesky in your questions. But a good guru for you will sense that and take it on as a challenge for them, because they're confident in their own Shrona. They're a Shrona who is confident in their own path, and they don't need to prove it to you, because they're a limping walker. They are what you're seeking to be. And it doesn't even need to be the same, you know. You could be someone who's seeking yoga, but what you find first before you realize that you want to be a yogi, so you find a martial artist, and they are Shrona. They are a master of their thing. And they're going to take you through the martial art thing and put you through the paces of what it's like working with someone who is Shrona, who's been walking a path for a long time. It'll be painful and annoying to you, but you will see by that the essence of a person who has followed a path the whole way through and became experienced and knowledgeable. And that will all be painful and annoying because it's where your nodes are. This is your evolutionary goal that you seek. And we're often antagonized by our most evolutionary narrative. A joke that Ernst Wilhelm always says is, you want to make an astrologer laugh, tell them your plans for how you plan to deal with Rahu and Ketu. Now, you can also, if you have Ketu in Sravana, you can also have Rahu in Ashlesha. And that's what our friend Hamster Heaven here has. So, same narrative. If you have Ketu in Sravana, you are somebody who is born seeking paths, and you are now looking to accept that you are a path seeker, but also have established paths that give meaning to your constant seeking and wandering. And you want your established paths to ultimately lead you back to the formless consciousness and witness of your true self within all these different forms on the path. Now, if you've got Rahu and Ashlesha, that means that you're going to be sort of never happy falling in any particular path, except that throughout life, you're going to get this acid hunger, this menacing, acid, seductive, hypnotic desire to experience the depths of some kind of form, some kind of path, some kind of engagement, some enchanting engagement with life. And it might very well be so enchanting that it actually stops you from walking the path. Ashlesha is like the snake in the Jungle Book. Say now, what have we here? And Mowgli follows his eyes, and he becomes enchanted and hypnotized by this seductive snake. And the snake is wrapping all around him to squeeze him to death and squeeze the life out of him and to eat him. So Ashlesha is ultimately this distracting, entertaining, sexy, seductive phenomenon. And Sravana can easily be yanked out of its path by the glimmering energy and the jeweled look of Ashlesha. Now, as you move forward in life, Ashlesha is probably going to yank you out of your path seeking. Because a Sravana Ketu person they're sick of they're sick of themselves. We're all sick of our own Ketu. That's why we want to get away from it, especially up to age 36. We've been a limping walker. We've been getting away from seeking paths. Then at age 36, something happens that seduces us into wanting to follow through with a particular path that gives us a vivification, an aliveness, to make us feel like we're dancing in ecstasy with something. In the case of Sravana Ketu with Ashlesha Rahu, what's going to happen is that the ecstatic and electric dance of the serpents entwined with each other in a mystical, loving, romantic, passionate embrace is going to get old. It's going to take a lot of your energy. It's going to be enchanting, and it's going to drain you like a snake, squeezing your life away. And it's this form that you get trapped in through Ashlesha that makes you appreciate the freedom of being a person who wants to be liberated in seeking consciousness. This is falling back to Ketu, falling back to the castle. You started in India, the castle. It was boring because you couldn't see yourself in context, and you said, I want to leave India. I want to go to starry-eyed Hollywood, America. Hollywood is the perfect metaphor for Ashlesha. You decided to go to California and to check out the Hollywood world with all its glow, its energy, its culture, and its high human martini drinking culture. We're very refined, cultured people here in California, yes? And New York, and the pinky raising while drinking the tea, yes. And that's more British, really, but you're going to find the glimmering glare of the highest end of human affairs on planet Earth. And you're going to come to find how shallow those things truly can be. How Hollywood is just basically looking to convince itself that it's hypnotizing. By hypnotizing itself, and by hypnotizing the whole world. Ashlesha hypnotizes the whole world and says, wow, I must be something. And then it looks inside the mirror and hypnotizes itself and said, wow, I'm fucking bullshit. I'm just bullshitting people. This whole hypnotism thing is fucking bullshit. Excuse my language. I'm Ashlesha rising, so I can know this about myself. I'm very charming, aren't I? But eventually as time goes on, the Rahu Ashlesha person gets tired of the hypnotism. And this especially begins to happen from age 36 to age 43. First, you get tired of not being hypnotized. First, you get tired of not letting anything grab you. Ketu and Sravana is still walking, never stopped walking because it hasn't been grabbed. Something has not grabbed its attention. It has not been yanked into a mystical fascination with anything. Then at age 36, into your late 30s and early 40s, you get grabbed by the cojones, by your breasts, by your throat, by your tongue, and something that is aggravatingly hypnotic and passionate and meaningful and liberating in the senses and in your sense organs and in everything in this regard. You're pulled into life. And by doing so, by being pulled into life, you're pulled out of the observer of life, the primary consciousness of all-pervading one essence, Vishnu, the formless one which perceives my passion, which perceives the hypnosis, which perceives the seduction. And at age 43, you're going to find that you got to be careful with addiction with this kind of thing, because the addictions, the compulsions, the vrittis become very strong in this Rahu and Ashlesha person. And it's the energy that you draw back from this slinking, outgoing spring of snake-like venom going forward. It's when you draw the venom back, you pull it back into yourself through yoga, through meditation, through consciousness, and through an established path that actually has meaning. And this is what happens, is that eventually the Ashlesha person, they're not slinging themselves into a path. They're slinging themselves out into passion. But by finding passion, paths open up for them, because it is a thing in this world. Whatever they're passionate about, whatever has drawn them out of themselves, they find is a beautiful thing in this world. And it reveals the prompt for inquiry. Say, why does this entice me so much? And what kind of useful knowledge and paths are there from music, for example? Ashlesha can draw you into music, to be a musical person, to be somebody who hypnotizes people or gets hypnotized by music, by making movies, by being in the movies, by doing art, culture, even making perfumes, all these kinds of things that can grip people in their senses. You see it working on them, you see it working on yourself, you begin to wonder, where in this is there wisdom paths that lead us all back to the self? Because even the senses, even Ashlesha, even that enchantment can bring you back ultimately to an enchanting. This is somebody who has a snake rattle, who's just like that snake that says, well, what have we here? And goes like this, hey, 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 come, 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 and leads people back to the unseducible. They come passionately back to the ultimate passion, which is consciousness. Having and using intelligent consciousness, reflecting through self-awareness on the ultimate subject, which is the subject itself, which is the inner witness, which is Vishnu, which is yoga. So this is a person who uses Ashlesha to ultimately bring them back to a passionate engagement with their established path. And again, it becomes the same thing. They find paths, but they're excited and passionate about ultimately seeking more paths and exotic lifestyles, talking with people in different religions and different cultures, and being hypnotically involved with whatever grounded path they seek, whatever life they live, if they've got a family, if they've got kids, if they've got a wife, if they've got a business. They're very excited about whatever path they've chosen, because it's not all that bullshit I did in my late 30s and early 40s. It's not passion for the sake of passion. It's passion applied to a path that I've grown to understand. I feel good about how I described that. So that worked out pretty good. Now, of course, for anybody watching, you can have conveyed to you something similar with regard to Rahu in the sign of Sravana. If Rahu is in the sign of Sravana, we're going to have more of this theme of exotic what was the phrase that Vic used here? Exotic conclusions and lifestyles, as well as faraway travels. Rahu in Sravana, when, you know, I'm going to make a video eventually describing Ketu in Ashlesha, Ketu in Pushya, and Ketu in Ashlesha. If Ketu is in Pushya, then you will have been seeking a religious tradition that makes sense. And Rahu is going to spring you into Sravana at age 36. Awesome, hamster of heaven. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Rahu is going to spring you into Sravana around age 36 to 43. And you're going to be seeking paths. You're going to be seeking many paths. And you're going to be seeking to establish some kind of path. And it'll be the same back and forth with Pushya and Sravana in the switched nodes, where Rahu and Sravana is going to bring out the meaning of Pushya Ketu. It's going to bring out the Prahaspati, bring out the conversation had with gurus. And you're going to establish your own paths, and you're going to find meaning in your own path through your own way. That's what Rahu and Sravana does. I'm going to find my own way through my own listening. I'm going to take all the knowledge from everyone and find my own path. But in this case, with Rahu and Sravana, you're going to fall back to Ketu Pushya, which means at age 48, you're going to ultimately, it's going to be in the service of your own, of a tradition, of your guru's tradition. The Sravana seeking is going to find that it's just a means to make you happy with the religious tradition you ultimately land on. With Sravana, Rahu, and Ketu and Ashlesha, you're going to find a similar thing where the embrace of the serpents, the embrace of Ketu and Ashlesha, we all get sick of our own path. So Ketu and Ashlesha has always been wanting to feel seductive and passionate and vivified in its senses. And it goes up to age 36 not really feeling that. And then at age 36 to 43, they start to let go of their passion and walk and have this sort of wandering, where they find all the different ways that they can experience, again, exotic lifestyles, faraway travels. And it requires discipline. It requires being able to make money. It requires to have a solid way of traveling and experiencing life, experiencing many paths, expanding your knowledge so that the passion of Ketu and Ashlesha can have meaning. Rahu and Sravana is going to drag you around to different paths so you can finally land back on Ketu and Ashlesha. And the Ketu and Ashlesha is going to be about embracing the passions of the serpents, embracing seduction, and embracing the arousal of the spirit that comes from the seduction, the hypnotism of passion, of drawing humanity in and bringing it back to a meaningful place. Sravana is going to add meaning to Ashlesha, right? It's really Rahu adds meaning to Ketu. So if you have Ketu, Ashlesha, Rahu and Sravana is going to add meaning to the ultimate place you land, which is the passion of Ketu and Ashlesha. Wonderful. So it's a wonderful place to have the nodes, really. All of the node placements can be painful in some ways, joyous in their own ways. If you're interested, if you ever would want to have a discussion with me about your nodes and about anything that I've described here, you can contact me at astrology@dustincormier.com. You can find me at astrology@dustincormier.com. Oh, excuse me. And it will be there that you can discuss with me any of these themes if they've come up for you, if it's important to you. I would be happy to discuss these themes with you. It's my passion to be able to discuss these things with people. And I hope you guys enjoyed that portion of our video. We have one final reading left for today. Thank you very much if you've been watching the Rahu Ketu video and the planets interpretation video. I'll see you guys on the next side of things. But for those who are watching live presently, we have one more reading to go. It's the divine forces of the lunar nakshatras as portrayed in the Vedas. So I will also be making a fresh video of this as well. So if you are a native of Sravana, this is the video for you. And I thank you for being here and being a part of this video with me. If you would like what you watch and what you're enjoying here, feel free to check me out at dustincormier.com/subscribe. And there you'll be able to join my email list where you can be a part of my list of people who see the stuff, who get to hear the work that I have coming forward, including my coming books. I'm writing novels, poetry books, and instruction booklets on tropical Vedic astrology. So keep your ears peeled, Mr. or Mrs. Sravana, for what I've got coming by going to dustincormier.com/subscribe. Thank you so much. So this is our final reading today. This is the divine forces of the lunar nakshatras as portrayed in the Vedas by a lady named Radhe. Now, this particular section is intended for anybody who has Sravana, who is a Sravana native. So a Sravana native is somebody who has either, most importantly, it's the moon in the sign of Sravana. For the reference, let's just take a quick little peek at my pictures here. If you're interested, these are the two current tropical Vedic position points given for all of the nakshatras. As we can see here, they are different. Vic Dicara uses the Lahiri Ayanamsha applied to the tropical zodiac. Ernst has his own Ayanamsha. It's not his own, it's the one he uses. And so it's different. I lean into Ernst Wilhelm, personally. So for Vic Dicara, Sravana is between 4 degrees Aquarius and 17.5 degrees of Aquarius. For Ernst Wilhelm, Sravana begins at 27.25 degrees of Capricorn and ends at 9.75 degrees of Aquarius. So keep that in mind if you are looking to know where your moon is or your ascendant. The moon is the most primary indicator of Sravana native. The ascendant in Sravana would be second most prominent. And then just having any big group of planets in Sravana would be third. And also your Amakarika can be a good indicator. It's nice to have everybody here hanging out with us. The sun can be a good indicator of it as well, but especially the sun would be the third strongest indicator. The moon is first, ascendant is second, sun is third, Atmakarika and sun are kind of tied. And then you can just have a stellium or the south node. If you have the south node in Sravana, you're going to find that there's themes that you relate with in this reading as well. So let's keep in mind that the author of this book, I highly respect her. She's done a lot of research, particularly in how the deity permeates and resonates with the essence of this nakshatra. Now, she is a sidereal practitioner. I am a tropical Vedic astrologer. So her idea of things is that Sravana falls into Capricorn and that it's going to relate intrinsically with Capricorn. I am somebody who in this modern age, reading from books like this is like eating a nice Jamaican curry. It's got the bones in it, which is the flavorful delicious and flavorful. But what I have to do as a tropical Vedic astrologer is I got to suck on those sidereal traditional bones and spit them out. Because there's important information that we convey here, but we have to be discerning and cherry pick in a certain way, which is not what I would typically regard. I'm sure people would hate me for saying that. But it is what we have to do as tropical Vedic astrologers, gaining extra information from resources that are based on traditional writings about nakshatras that have the distortion points in them, which we talked about earlier in my Nakshatra Sutras video. The sidereal people think that the old constellations are married, the old sign constellations of the Zodiac from 2,000 years ago are married to the nakshatras. As a tropical Vedic astrologer, I know that that's not true in my camp. So that's where this idea of that distortion is coming from that I speak to when I do these readings. But I digress. So if you are moon or ascendant in Sravana, or possibly sun or Atmakaraka, or south node in Sravana, or any stellium in here, all of this indicates that you are a Sravana native, though the moon is most important. Ascendant is second most. Let's get down to it. This is the Vishnu Sravana Nakshatra native from Radhe. Now, what we read is Vishnu has an association with Vak. Vak is a goddess with the ear as one of its three symbols. And it relates to revelation divinely revealed through sound. Shruti, in particular, is preserved from one generation to the next through oral transmission. It is said to be eternal and static in nature. This is the goddess Vak that contains the inner voice of consciousness that is eternal and permeates all galaxies, all universes, all cosmoses, all planets. The sound of consciousness is going to resonate with it echoing walls of reverberating wisdom that are the same wherever life happens. Maybe I'll tell you that question at the end here, Robbie. I'm going to try to focus on the particular conversation at hand here, my friend, because I'd have to go looking for those placements in my D40 and 45 and 60 charts. So Vak is this goddess which relates to the permeating reality of wisdom contained in sound and the inner voice of consciousness that's within us all. Oh yeah, gotcha. No problem, Robbie. So, Vishnu's association with the goddess Vak imparts to the Sravana native this special faculty of metered speech, particularly when coupled with auditory acuteness. This may give the Sravana native a special interest and proficiency in mantra japa, kirtan, song, singing, etc. Along these lines, the native is likely to display a unique aptitude for languages, particularly ancient dialects, and an adeptness with the spoken word. Possible vocational choices include a career as a grammarian, a linguist, a counselor, or a distinguished speaker. This is especially so if you have things in your natal chart that correlate with that. You know, if you had the second Bhavesha, the second Lord, in the 10th house, that would be it relating to speech being placed in the 10th house. Now, Adam, the best books on nakshatras, in my opinion, the best you can get is Vic Dicara's Nakshatra, The Authentic Heart of Vedic Astrology, particularly because it is a tropical astrologer. who's doing it. The second best, nobody else really has that. There's not a lot of that out there. The second best book on the nakshatras. I also actually recommend again that you check out Ernst Wilhelm's amazing little book. It's called you can find it by going online. You go to Vedic-astrology.net, and it's Vedic Astrology with Ernst Wilhelm. You're going to find he has a little section here. It says, please download my free ebook, Energies of the 27 Nakshatras, with a new translation of the Nakshatra Sutras from the Taittiriya Brahmana. So he is also a person who uses tropical Vedic astrology, and this little booklet that he gives out for free is something that I base a lot of my work on. The third book I recommend is this one, The Divine Forces of the Lunar Nakshatras as Portrayed in the Vedas. It's a thick book. It's got about 300 long pages. So keep that in mind, but this is the best book based on a sidereal researcher who has information on the nakshatras. And I hope that's helpful to you, Adam. So we've heard that Sravana has possible vocational choices, including careers as a grammarian, someone interested in grammar, a linguist, language, a counselor, or a distinguished speaker. It's actually, you can, even just by having Saturn in Sravana like I do, you can see Saturn's going to relate in some ways to what you do with your job and your career. So this is a useful thing to see for anybody interested vocationally in what they want to do with their lives, to see where Saturn is in the nakshatra. But in general, the Sravana native relates to this. Now we read that John Lennon had the moon in the sign of Sravana. And he is the epitome of Shravana's ability to impart proficiency and acumen in song and songwriting. So he's a Shravana native, the moon in Shravana. And we're talking about this aptitude for languages, song, mantra, japa, words, hearing, right? With John Lennon's penetrating intelligence, he composed such phenomenal hits as Strawberry Fields, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Remember, and countless others. He was the lead singer and composer of other hits too, such as Imagine and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Now, Vishnu creates structure, the three realms, and organization, universal holy decrees. The Shravana native also has a knack for this sort of organizing and partitioning resources, especially with working as an executive in a company or something of this nature. Coupled with great intelligence, these skills are suitable in professions involving the creation of corporate structures and policies or governmental organizations, judicial laws, and regulations. Under different chart conditions, under certain chart conditions, this native may instead be an avid activist, protester, or lobbyist, seeking to repeal established laws and institutions. Especially if Rahu should be involved, the Shravana person may decide to abide by his own set of holy decrees and disregarding those of society. Very interesting. Now, in the material and spiritual realm, the Shravana native has a privileged access to the higher echelons of society. We can recall Vishnu represents the axis mundi in the, I'm going to do a reading of Vishnu as the Lord of Sravana Nakshatra as a separate video. And you're going to hear a little bit about how Vishnu represents this axis mundi if you should feel like watching that. So thus, the native's goals and objectives are best achieved by moving within these privileged circles. Vishnu has a special affiliation with Akasha, ether. And this often invokes a curiosity about space. That's like astronomy, astrology, and cosmology, these subjects that we're discussing, as well as space travel. That's aeronautics and literal outside space exploration, quantum physics even type stuff, and astronomical space exploration. Of particular interest to this person, the Sravana native, are also those activities requiring quickness in movement. That's like a race car driving, sprinting, tap dancing, etc. Vishnu, after all, strode with great speed. Now we learn that George Lucas had Sravana moon, and it might have been in the 10th bhava, depending on, this is sidereal reading, so it might be hard to say whether that's true or not. But either way, George Lucas had Sravana moon. He was the creator of the famous Star Wars series. And he's an archetype for these aspects of Sravana. George Lucas had a passion for race car driving, and early in his life he was hopeful for a career in motor racing. He also attempted to join the United States Air Force in his early 20s, but was turned down because of excessive speeding tickets. Later, George Lucas created Star Wars. It's a space epic that takes place in a galaxy far, far away, much like the region occupied by Vishnu, which is the remotest part of the universe. In this galaxy where space travel is common, it's the common mode of transportation. There's also an omnipresent, all-pervasive thing called the Force that connects one to all and all to one. The Force is inherently good, but it may be manipulated for evil purposes. And this force may be likened to Vishnu's all-pervading spirit, Shukshma. It's very cool. Very cool. This is a great pull by this author to regard George Lucas as having Sravana moon and to relate it to all of this, Now, whether that moon, it's probably Sravana moon by Vic Dicara's regard for sure. I'd be interested to know whether it is in the place between 27 degrees Capricorn and 9 degrees Aquarius that Ernst Wilhelm would call Sravana. But I digress. Now, next part of the reading here. Following in Vishnu's space apportioning footsteps, the native may alternatively be drawn to real estate endeavors, such as land subdivision or tract housing development. This is in reference, if you haven't seen the beginning of my Nakshatra Sutra series. There's a story of Vishnu where he has to he turns into an atom, because he is an atom. He's the smallest, but also the largest essence that permeates everything. This ego demon was getting too big for the universe. The universe was crumbling. So everyone prayed to Vishnu, as they always do, and said, Vishnu, please come save us. Vishnu said, all right, I'm going to show up as a dwarf, as an atom, and trick this little demon ego. So the demon says, you're so small. What do you want from me? And Vishnu says, nothing, sir. I just want 3 measly footsteps worth of land. And the demon says, 3? You're as small as an atom. You're 3 measly little footsteps. I could give you anything. And Vishnu says, it's okay, just those 3 steps will do if you'll promise me that. And the ego demon says, great, take it. And Vishnu says, good. And with my first step, it's better to explain it this way. With my first step, I'm going to take Swarloka, the heaven. With my second step, I'm going to take Bhuva, which is the atmosphere. With my third step, where shall I put my third step? There's no space left, Mr. Ego Demon. And the ego demon recognizes him as Vishnu, who's grown so big. And the ego demon puts his hand in his heart and he says, I recognize you as the great all-pervading one, sir. With your third step, you can step on my head. And he bows his head, and Vishnu puts his head right there. And the guy was lucky enough to achieve enlightenment or something along these lines. Yeah, speeding tickets, no kidding. So this is what relates to Vishnu as being an apportioner of space through his footsteps. So this Sravana person might be drawn to real estate, things like land subdivision, tract housing development, owning land, etc. Ah. So Robbie, I wonder if... Thanks for that, Robbie. His Ketu's in Sravana. That's helpful for us, so he'll definitely have a bit of these themes. But his moon is Dhanishta. Robbie comes in clutch. Now I wonder, Robbie, is that coming from Ernst Wilhelm using Dhruva, middle of Mula, Ayanamsha, with the equatorial coordinates? Because that's what I usually use. But thank you, Robbie, for always being there to give us that little extra hint of what's happening here. It just goes to show that this whole Star Wars theme is probably coming more from his Ketu in Sravana, which is very interesting. Goes to show that the South Node says a lot about your nakshatra consciousness. Now, if Sravana Nakshatra is afflicted or occupied, for example, by the 6th Lord, which has to do with acute health conditions, or the 8th Lord, which has to do with chronic health conditions, then Vishnu's asymmetrical steps may actually create an unusual or abnormal gait, such as leg length discrepancy. It's LLD. It's where one leg is longer than the other. It might make a person have clumsy walking or excessive tripping. So that's if you've got the 6th or 8th Lord, or possibly Saturn in Sravana. I've got Saturn there, which is my 6th Lord. I have my 6th Lord of Sravana. My 6th Lord of my chart is Saturn in the 7th house, technically, in Sravana. And I did have some funky foot stuff when I was young. My parents had to figure out, I had the Tommy legs, except where they would go inside, but I think that they were bow-legged outward, I think. One of those two. You know, Tommy from the Rugrats? He walked with his legs inside as opposed to straight. They were in like that. So my parents had to do a lot to uncrank that. God bless them. Now, although Sravana is it's considered to be an extremely auspicious nakshatra, but this native may have an excessive need for compliments and praise. Under certain chart conditions, there is a tendency towards excessive pride and vanity in the Sravana Nakshatra native. Just as Vishnu endured the grave consequences of pride when his head is severed, the notions of a swollen head or an injury to the head are ascribed to Sravana. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Robbie. Yeah, so George Lucas, I would say it looks... Oh, look at that, Michelangelo. You've probably had the same thing that I had when I was little, wearing those special shoes to make your feet go normal. And yes, Robbie tells us that Kala defines George Lucas's moon as actually being Dhanishta with Ketu Sravana. So we'll read in the Vishnu story, if you watch the extra video that I make on it, that Vishnu does get a swollen head. And that's a Purana story that really... Vishnu wouldn't actually do that. The Puranas tend to give us information about the nakshatras more than the classical Vedic deity. So it's a useful story, and that's a useful thing to consider here. Claire Nakti says the Ketu rules creativity and the daemon. Most creative channel their creativity via their Ketu placement. Beautiful. And that makes sense that George Lucas created Star Wars out of Ketu and Sravana. Thank you, Hamster Heaven. Now, Shravana's foundation above, which we've talked about, is the enlightened Godheads. Its foundation below is the path leading to the gods. And its Shakti is the ability to connect, samhanana, others with the divine. So that's the Shakti of Sravana, is its ability to connect others with the divine, especially by being connected to the enlightened Godheads and developing paths that lead to that enlightenment, which might literally just mean finding guides, gurus, people who are sage-like, who have tapped into the inner voice and know how to tune into the dial, the frequency of Vishnu, of their own true soul nature, despite all the noise of material reality. And the Shrona person taps into those people, gets a taste of it for themselves, and then can Shaktipat and bring that awareness just by osmosis, by being in the same room as a Sravana native, with a lot of positive indications in Sravana especially. When these three come together, divinity manifests everywhere. That's the Parastat, the Avastat, and the Shakti. It's the being in the presence of enlightened beings in Godhead energy. Developing your own path to expressing and walking the path of Godhead energy. And having other people bump into you while you're doing that, they get a taste, they get a smell for Vishnu through you. Beautiful, beautiful thing there. Now, we hear the writer here gives us a notion that Swami Vivekananda has his 10th Bhavesha Lord, 10th Bhavesha, which is the house lord, Mercury, in Shravana, in the second bhava of speech. But because this is sidereal, it would be different. So what we do know is that Swami Vivekananda had Mercury in Shravana. He was a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. He's famed for a stirring speech he delivered at the Department of World Religions in Chicago in 1893, I think that should say. That looks like a typo. He lived in the 1800s. He conducted hundreds of lectures and classes, disseminating tenets of Hindu philosophy and spirituality throughout the world, and I'm sure his Mercury in Shravana helped that. I digress. This has been a good video, and I've enjoyed doing it with you guys. Thank you to Hamster Heaven and my buddy Robbie Chowdhury, who's always supporting me. Nice to see you, Michael Angel Escalante, as well as Adam I. Eva. Nice to have you here. And everybody who's been watching. We also had Jerry Michael Brooks hanging out with us earlier here today. And my friend Sasha Di Frederico. It's nice to have you all here hanging out with me while I discuss my passion for consciousness. I'm Dustin Cormier. If you've liked what I've done here, you can check me out at dustincormier.com/subscribe. And that's where you can be a part of my email list. You can see the work that I have coming in the future. And as well, if anybody is interested in sending me an email and working with me, you can email me at astrology@dustincormier.com. I'm happy to do the work that I do. I'm happy to guide people through the awareness of their nakshatras. It's important for all of us, and it's a very nice thing for me to do. It helps me to build on my knowledge. And if anybody's interested, again, it's, I do this for the love of it, but, tips are always appreciated, never expected. But I've also put my PayPal link in here in the chat box for anybody who would be interested in doing so and giving me a donation. But like I said, I just love doing this stuff for its own sake. So thank you for everybody for being here. It's been my pleasure to do this live with you. I'm Dustin Cormier. You'll be seeing the split ups of these different videos at some point. Thank you for watching. If you've watched for the Sravana native video, I really appreciate seeing you, and I'm sure I'll see you again. And for those who have been watching the Nakshatra Sutras video from the beginning, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Keep your eyes out for more stuff coming out, coming soon. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you guys on the other side.